My mother-in-law invited us to dinner and slid a folder across the table. I fixed your company name, she said. Inside were logos using her family's surname. You married into us, so the business is ours now. The folder looked professionally made. The first page showed a gold and white logo for a company called Harper & Cole Design Group. Harper was my husband's last name. Cole was mine. Underneath it was the slogan, a family name. A lasting legacy. I turned the page and found business cards, letterheads, social media banners, and a mock-up of a new sign for my studio. My husband, Wesley, picked up one of the cards and stared at his mother. What is this? Brenda smiled like she had just solved a problem for us. A rebrand. I had my friend's daughter put together a few options. You paid someone to rename Miranda's company? He asked. I paid someone to help her think bigger. I closed the folder. My company already has a name. Brenda's smile tightened. This keeps your name. It just adds the family you married into. My father-in-law, Ronald, looked down at his coffee. Whenever Brenda crossed a line, he suddenly became very interested in whatever was on the table. I pushed the folder back toward her. I'm not changing the name. You haven't even considered it. There's nothing to consider. Brenda leaned away from the table. I spent money on this. I didn't ask you to. Wesley set the business card down. Mom, you can't make decisions about someone else's company. Brenda looked at him as though he had betrayed her. I'm not some stranger interfering in her business. I'm family. That was the problem. She believed being family meant the normal rules no longer applied. I had built Cole and Pine years before I met Wesley. The company started with an old laptop, borrowed furniture, and money I had saved while working 2 jobs. My first storage space was half of a friend's garage. My first client hired me to stage a condo that had been sitting on the market for months. I borrowed a dining table from my aunt, carried lamps up 3 flights of stairs, and took the listing photos myself because I couldn't afford a photographer. The condo sold within a week. That client referred me to his real estate agent. She sent me another property, then another. For nearly 2 years, I handled everything alone. I met clients, moved furniture, cleaned decor, scheduled deliveries, chased invoices, and worked late into the night. Cole came from my maiden name. Pine came from an old pine desk my grandmother gave me. It was scratched and slightly uneven, but I had signed my first real contract on it. By the time I met Wesley, Cole and Pine already had employees, a warehouse, regular clients, and a solid reputation. He understood that from the beginning. On one of our first dates, he asked how I chose the company name. After I explained it, he said it would be ridiculous to change something people already recognized. When we became engaged, I told him I would use Harper socially but remain Miranda Cole professionally. He had no problem with it. Brenda did. The first time she saw one of my business cards after the wedding, she turned it over and said, "Still using Cole? For work. I suppose changing everything takes time." "I'm not changing it." She laughed as though I wasn't serious. After that, she brought it up at family gatherings. She asked whether clients were confused by my surname. She suggested Harper Interiors sounded more established. Once, she said our future children might feel excluded if the family business didn't carry their name. Each time, I reminded her it was not a family business. She always moved on without agreeing. The Harpers weren't wealthy or influential, but Brenda treated the family name like a historic institution. Wesley's grandfather had owned a neighborhood hardware store. Ronald later managed it. One of Wesley's uncles coached high school football, and Ronald had served a term on the local school board. Brenda spoke about these things as though the name alone carried authority. When Cole and Pine landed the largest contract in its history, her comments became more frequent. A development company hired us to design and stage model units for several new apartment buildings. The contract allowed me to hire additional staff and expand our inventory. A local magazine published a feature about the company. It included photographs of my team, our studio, and the pine desk in my office. Brenda shared the article online. Her caption said, "So proud of our daughter-in-law and the growing Harper family business." I messaged her privately and asked her to change it. She replied, "I'm celebrating you." I appreciate that, but Cole and Pine is not a Harper family business. She deleted the entire post instead. Later, she called Wesley and said I had embarrassed her over a harmless caption. A few months later, she invited us to dinner and handed me the rebranding folder. I told her again that the name would not change. Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't understand why you treat the Harper name like something shameful." "I don't." "Then why are you so determined to keep yourself separate from us?" "My company isn't a statement about your family. It existed before I knew any of you. That sounds cold. It's the truth. She looked at Wesley. Do you hear the way she talks about your family? Wesley's chair scraped against the floor as he stood. Stop making this about me. I don't want my name on her company. Brenda gathered the papers from the table. You're married now, she said to me. You don't get to act like everything you had before still belongs only to you. Wesley told her she had gone too far. We left before dessert. During the drive home, he apologized repeatedly. I told him I didn't blame him, but I couldn't stop thinking about what Brenda had said. She didn't believe she was suggesting a marketing idea. She believed marriage had given her family a claim to what I had built. I thought refusing the folder would settle the issue. A few weeks later, one of my longtime suppliers called. Derek usually contacted me about delivery schedules or damaged inventory, so I knew something was wrong when he asked whether congratulations were in order. For what? I said. The merger. I stopped typing. What merger? There was a pause. The Harper and Cole thing. Someone told one of our sales representatives that your company was restructuring. I asked where he heard it. He explained that Brenda had attended a charity event and introduced herself as the mother of the owners. She had apparently said the company was becoming Harper and Cole Design Group as part of a family expansion. After I ended the call, Tessa, my project coordinator, looked over from her desk. What happened? I told her. Her expression changed. She's telling vendors? That was when the situation stopped feeling like an irritating family disagreement. Our contracts, insurance, invoices, and bank accounts were tied to Cole and Pine. If suppliers or clients believed the company had changed ownership, it could create questions about existing agreements. I called Brenda. She answered cheerfully. I asked whether she had announced a rebrand at the charity event. I didn't announce anything. Derek heard that you introduced yourself as the mother of the owners. I may have said something similar. There is one owner. Me. She sighed. You're making this sound worse than it was. People asked about your business, and I mentioned some ideas. You told them the company was changing its name. I said we were discussing possibilities. We aren't. You rejected the folder while you were upset. That doesn't mean it was a bad idea. I told her there was no rebrand and there would never be one. She responded with the same argument she had used before. Wesley deserves to feel included. He has never asked for this. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable telling you. I ended the call before the conversation became uglier. That evening, I asked Wesley directly whether he felt excluded from the business. From owning it, he said. No. From anything else? He hesitated. The pause hurt more than I expected. I don't care about the name, he said. But lately, it feels like there's no part of our life that work hasn't taken over. My first instinct was to defend myself. I had employees depending on me. The new contract had strict deadlines. Problems didn't disappear because it was dinner time. Then I thought about the last few months. I had checked emails during meals, taken calls in the middle of conversations, and canceled 2 weekends because clients changed their schedules. Wesley had supported every difficult stage of the expansion, but that didn't mean he had to pretend it wasn't affecting our marriage. That has nothing to do with your mother claiming the business, I said. I know. She's wrong. But you still feel pushed aside. Sometimes. It was difficult to hear, but it was fair. We agreed to set clearer boundaries. I stopped answering routine work calls during dinner. We chose one evening each week when company talk was off limits. Wesley began attending a few public events with me, not as an owner or employee, but because I wanted him there. Things between us improved. Brenda, however, started telling relatives that I had nearly agreed to the rebrand before becoming emotional. Wesley's sister, Kendra, called and said I was creating unnecessary tension. It was only an idea, she said. It stopped being an idea when your mother told suppliers it was happening. She's proud of you. Pride doesn't make it acceptable. Kendra admitted Brenda may have gotten carried away, but she still wanted me to let it go. At the next family gathering, one of Wesley's cousins asked how the expansion was going. Before I could answer, Brenda said, "They're doing very well. We're still working out the new branding." I looked directly at her. "No, we aren't." The conversation around the table stopped. Brenda smiled without warmth. I meant the family was discussing it. The family does not make decisions about my company. Kendra whispered my name, warning me not to create a scene. I kept my voice calm. "Brenda, please stop telling people the company is changing its name." She put down her glass. "Fine." That night, I sent her a written message to make the boundary clear. I told her she could not present herself as part of Cole and Pine, announce changes to the business, or use the name Harper and Cole in connection with my work. She called Wesley crying and said I had threatened her. He read the message. "This isn't a threat," he told her. "Miranda is asking you to stop doing something she has already told you not to do." Brenda said I was treating her like a criminal. Wesley replied that she had created the situation herself. She stopped speaking to us for almost 2 weeks. I assumed the silence meant she had finally accepted the boundary. Then Tessa walked into my office holding her phone. "You need to see this." She placed it on my desk. A public social media page had been created under the name Harper and Cole Home Design. The profile picture used the logo from Brenda's folder. The cover image was taken from Cole and Pine's website. The page description referred to a family-run design company, and several posts used photographs from our portfolio. Brenda had even responded to comments. When one person asked about booking a consultation, she wrote that our design team would be expanding soon. Anyone who found the page could have believed it was connected to my company. I called Wesley. He came to the studio and looked through the posts. "I'll call her," he said. "No. I'm handling it differently this time." He looked at me. "I'm speaking to an attorney." He nodded without arguing. Cassandra reviewed the screenshots, the original folder, my written message to Brenda, and the information Derek had given me. She said the page needed to come down immediately. "Are you looking to sue her?" she asked. "No. I just want her to stop." Cassandra recommended sending a formal cease and desist letter. It required Brenda to delete the page, remove the copied photographs, stop using the unauthorized name, and stop presenting herself as connected to Cole and Pine. I asked whether the letter could remain firm without sounding unnecessarily hostile. "It can be professional," Cassandra said. "But after everything you've shown me, it can't leave room for another misunderstanding." The letter was sent that afternoon. Brenda deleted the page within hours. Then she messaged Wesley and said she would never forgive me for humiliating her. Kendra called soon after. "You involved a lawyer against Mom?" She created a fake business page. She thought she was helping. I told her several times to stop. "You could have called her again." How many calls would have been enough? Kendra said I had turned a family disagreement into a legal problem. I told her Brenda had done that when she copied my company's work and publicly represented a business that didn't exist. Kendra accused me of caring more about my brand than the family. For a while, I wondered whether the rest of the family saw me that way too. Brenda stopped inviting us to dinners. Ronald occasionally contacted Wesley, but he avoided discussing what happened. One of Wesley's cousins, Mallory, hired another designer for a renovation she had previously discussed with me. Brenda made sure the information reached us. When Wesley told me, I said I hoped Mallory was happy with the result. I refused to compete for work with relatives who believed hiring me was a personal favor. The distance from Brenda made our lives calmer. Wesley and I continued the boundaries we had created around my work, and we started discussing the company without every conversation becoming an argument. I admitted that I sometimes hid behind deadlines when I didn't want to deal with uncomfortable emotions. Wesley admitted that he had spent too long trying to keep the peace with his mother. "I thought staying out of it meant I was neutral," he said. "Really, it left you handling her alone." I didn't need him to turn against his family. I needed him to recognize when their behavior was affecting our marriage. 4 months passed. Cole and Pine continued growing. The development company renewed our contract, and we began planning a second office. Then Brenda messaged me. She wrote that she wanted peace and regretted that the situation had gotten out of hand. It wasn't a full apology. She described the conflict as though it had happened around her rather than because of her choices. Still, I agreed to meet her. We sat in a quiet cafe. Brenda looked tired and less certain than usual. She said she had only wanted Wesley to feel connected to my success. "You never asked him how he felt," I said. "You decided for both of us." I thought marriage meant building something together. It can. But marriage doesn't turn something one person created into shared family property. She looked down at her cup. "I never tried to steal your company. I don't think you planned to steal it. I think you wanted to absorb it into your family until people forgot it was mine." The words hurt her. I could see that. I told her I was willing to move forward, but the company was permanently off limits. She could not suggest new names, present herself as connected to the business, promote it without permission, or speak on my behalf. Brenda agreed. For the next several months, she respected those boundaries. When invitations went out for the opening of our second office, Wesley asked whether I wanted his parents there. I said yes. Not because everything between us had been repaired, but because I wanted to see whether Brenda could attend an event celebrating Cole and Pine without trying to claim part of it. The opening was small. We invited employees, clients, suppliers, friends, and a few relatives. I placed my grandmother's pine desk near the entrance. The surface still had scratches from years of use and a faded ring from the coffee mug I kept beside me while working late at night. Tessa arranged framed photographs showing the company's growth. There was a picture of the first condo I staged, another of the garage I used for storage, and several from our first studio. Brenda and Ronald arrived together. She hugged Wesley, then me. "Everything looks beautiful," she said. "Thank you." She didn't comment on the name. Later, Clayton, the representative from the development company, spoke about our work and announced that Cole and Pine had been selected for another major project. I had not known he planned to reveal it that evening. The room applauded. Brenda clapped too. Then Wesley asked everyone for their attention. He stood beside the old pine desk. When I met Miranda, this company already had clients, employees, and a reputation. She earned one project at a time, he said. The room grew quiet. She didn't marry into a business. I married someone who had already built one. My throat tightened. I'm proud to stand beside her, but standing beside someone doesn't mean stepping in front of them or putting your name over theirs. He didn't look at his mother. He didn't need to. This place is called Cole and Pine because it represents where Miranda came from and what she created. That history matters. The room applauded again. Brenda continued clapping, though her expression had changed. Part of me felt vindicated. Her own son had publicly said what I had tried to explain privately. Mostly, I felt relieved that I no longer had to convince him. Later, Brenda approached me near the pine desk. She ran her fingers lightly over its worn edge. "This is the desk your grandmother gave you?" "Yes." "The one where you signed your first contract?" I nodded. She looked at the photographs along the wall. "I didn't understand how much of your history was tied to the name." I could have told her she would have understood sooner if she had listened. Instead, I waited. She looked toward Wesley. "I suppose I wanted to believe his marriage brought all of this into our family." "It brought me into your family," I said. "That should have been enough." Brenda lowered her eyes. "It should have been." That was the closest thing to a sincere apology I received. We did not suddenly become close. Some damage doesn't disappear because one person finally acknowledges it. But she never used the unauthorized name again. She stopped referring to Cole and Pine as a family business. When people asked what I did, she began saying, "Miranda owns a design company." The company continued growing, but I changed too. I delegated more responsibility to my team and stopped treating exhaustion as proof that I deserved my success. I protected time with Wesley instead of assuming he would always accept being placed second. He attended events when he wanted to, but he never accepted a company title or pretended to have authority. He was my husband, and that was enough for both of us. Months later, I found the original rebranding folder while cleaning a cabinet. The designs still looked polished. Harper & Cole Design Group. A family name. A lasting legacy. I threw most of it away, but I kept one business card in the back of my desk drawer. It reminds me how quickly someone can rewrite your story when you stay silent to avoid upsetting them. Maybe involving an attorney seemed harsh. I could have made another call or arranged another family meeting. But Brenda had already heard me. She only stopped when ignoring me finally carried consequences. I didn't cut her out of our lives or try to embarrass her publicly. I protected the company I had spent years building and refused to let marriage erase the person I had been before it. Sometimes I still wonder whether I was unforgiving. Other times, I think it was simply the first moment I stopped apologizing for owning what was mine.